regular governing board meeting of the Jefferson Elementary School District on January 19th, 2022. May I please get members present?
Manufo Leah Inga Anuai,
Here.
Marie Brizuela,
Here.
Andrea Jordan,
Here.
Shaquille Ali is not present, Clayton Koo.
Here. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Lauro, could you lead us in the pledge this evening?
I had a feeling you're going to do that, but right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, and indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is governance team meeting guidelines. Governance team members will review the governance team meeting guidelines for tonight's meeting. Thanks. I just wanted to also just make a note to board members to speak clearly into the microphones so that people in attendance as well as on YouTube can also hear our comments. I think there's just some comments from previous meetings that they couldn't hear us fully. Item 5 is approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion on the approval of the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
There's a first and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 That was unanimous. Next is item 6, board member acknowledgement and commendations. I will start on my far right, Ms. Lingan Wei.
Thank you, President Koo. Feels good to be back. Happy New Year to everyone. I don't have any announcements or commendations, just to wish everyone well and to continue to remain safe. And again, if you can get vaccinated, please take advantage of it. But I'm looking forward to a great year. Thank you.
Mrs. Willow?
Okay, well, welcome back in person, which is great. I just wanted to also echo some of the things that you mentioned. I also want to say that I'm looking forward to a lot of good things happening, and that if we can follow all the guidelines and get the word out, make sure that everybody is vaccinated and is being healthy, then I think everybody can get through the next thing that's coming around. But other than that, I really don't have too much things to reflect on now. Maybe we can do it at the end of the meeting.
Ms. Jordan?
Echoing my fellow board trustees as well, so I will not repeat that in trying to keep with our guidelines and keeping our remarks concise. I do want to thank the members of the public that are here today. I did receive a few emails from teachers in our district with concerns, and so we really hope to hear from you all this evening. We are in support of you and keeping our community and our schools safe, and so I just did want to acknowledge that as well.
Echo everybody else, staying safe and healthy. I also just wanted to thank all the teachers and staff who helped distribute rapid tests the day before school started 2 weeks ago. So just want to just express my thanks for everybody who helped make that possible across our school district. Mr. Ali, did you have any board member comments or acknowledgements?
Good evening, everyone. As President Koo said, I'd also like to commend all the administrators and whoever else was out, handing out the testing kits during the break. I was there with Mr. Valenti and others at Policita. And, it's just a testament to the commitment that our community has here to always do the right thing. And, that's a big sacrifice to come off of your vacation like that. And I just want to say that I heard a lot of complaints about that from a lot of other superintendents and schools. However, that was the exact right time to put out the testing kits because they were going to school the next day. So we needed to have valid results. So that was a little bit, I think, confusing to the average citizen. So if there's a way we could amplify that, I think that would be great. I probably have much more commendations I can give later. I saw people on the agenda that are getting tenure tonight and other things, so yes.
Cool, thank you. Next item is item 6B, Superintendent Comments.
Thank you. As several board members mentioned, we did pass out around 4,000 self-test kits on the Sunday, January 2nd. That's about 80% of our students and our families came to pick up a test kit, and we saw the results of that on the very next day. Several students calling in because they had contracted the virus over the winter holidays. So that was it was sad to hear and know, but it was nice to know that we were able at least to stem some of that coming into the schools. As you all know, you are members of the community, and you know that the virus is spreading wildly throughout the community. And as such, it makes its way into our schools. It makes its way into our classrooms, into our offices, into our buildings. All of us know at least one person, if not more, that we work directly with that has been impacted by this. We are vigilant with this. We continue our weekly testing at all of our school sites and are always encouraging more staff and more students to sign up and be a part of that. We know that catching things early can support us, can support families to make decisions, and can, help families know that they might have a student who is infected with the virus but may not be showing symptoms, and that's the vast majority of our students are silent carriers, and they may have somebody at home that might be more vulnerable, so it helps them protect their home, people at home. I do want to say that the positivity rate in San Mateo County is extremely high. It ranges between 15 and 18%. My rough estimates of positivity rates in our school district among students and staff is lower than that. So we are not necessarily representing and mirroring our community at large. Our positivity rates are between 10 and 12%. Not something necessarily to be proud of, but also know that it is less than the community at large. So Ms. Nancy McGee, who is the superintendent of San Mateo County of Education, gave a presentation at another local school district just last week. And I was able to borrow a clip of that because I was going to go over her slides. But I just thought let her do the speaking, since she was recorded. So I'll ask Ms. Scott if she would. Okay, here we go.
Community this week is, why aren't people? Because it seems like, wow, this is the worst it's ever been. But I want to take everybody back to March of 2020 when this all first started. In March of 2020, that initial surge of COVID was just flat out dead. The severity was intense. The healthcare systems were overwhelmed. I don't know. I always remember the pictures from New York City and how they were one of the first cities to really get hit hard in the United States. The health officer in March of 2020 ordered schools to close. We were ordered to close. We would not have made that decision because there's a lot of impact when schools close and kids can't come to school every day. But the health officer made that decision based on public health information about the way in which the healthcare systems were overwhelmed. And everyone in San Mateo County was then ordered into shelter in place. We were the first county in California to go into shelter in place. And then many counties followed suit. At that time, we had very little knowledge about COVID-19, what it was, how it behaved. We just had very little data on how it was going to impact long-term. And the schools at the time had no existing COVID-specific safety protocols. We had to develop those in March and April and May. And then we also had very little access to PPE. That was something, oh, we better order masks, and we better order gloves, and we better order all this stuff. And everybody was trying to order things, if you can remember, and it was really hard to get. And the biggest thing of all was in March of 2020, not a single person was vaccinated against COVID-19. So we are talking about an entirely different universe. And we have to remember that with the pandemic lasting so long that we still sort of make associations with those initial experiences, but we're in a very, very different place. So where we are now is that we worked very hard to develop a San Mateo County specific pandemic recovery framework. That's been the anchor for all of our school districts. It follows the California Department of Public Health. We work closely with San Mateo County Health to keep that relevant and updated, and everybody has a place to go for the right behaviors. We now, across all of our schools, have testing protocols. You can do a PCR test or rapid antigen test or pool test protocol. 80% of our county is vaccinated, fully vaccinated, and above 90% is the vaccination rate on average at every school site for the staff. We have adequate supply of PPE. Our school districts are publicizing their data on dashboards. And we have federal and state money now to support the work that we have to do in order to safely operate schools. Additionally, we have a well-established partnership with San Mateo County Health, and the San Mateo County Office of Ed has well-established partnership with all of our school districts, including our school board members. And so what we've learned since 2020 is actually what we knew at the beginning was that schools actually need to be open. That our children need access to in-person learning to keep their development, academic development going. That they need social emotional interaction with peers and caring adults. That they need meaningful engagement and structure. And that in schools we have safety protocols, testing, vaccinated staff. Many students are also vaccinated. And a federal, state, and local commitment to remain open for our students. And finally, public health is fully committed to keeping schools open. Our health officer, if he determined that it was not in the, I don't know how to say, if it was dangerous to students to attend school, that it was more dangerous to attend school than it is to be at home in distance learning, they would, or if there were public health reasons why they needed to close schools, they would do it. But they are not taking that action. Something a lot of people do not realize is that the state legislature passed laws last budget season, legislative season, that do not permit schools to go to distance learning. So when you see a headline, Hayward moved to distance learning, that's really, when you read the article, that's really not what happened. There is an independent study protocol you can go to for students who can't attend school. It's very it takes a lot, it takes board policies, processes, paperwork, signatures. It's not just, oh, we're all gonna go home now and tomorrow we'll be online. There's a lot of systems that have to be in place for that to happen. So we actually are not allowed by law to go to distance learning. Finally, the healthcare system is managing surge. Like I said, we meet with public health twice a week. They give us all the data on schools and they give us the data on the hospitals. There is a little bit of an uptick in hospitals right now, but they're stating that a lot of those people in hospitals right now are people who had put off elective surgeries and other kinds of healthcare needs because of the pandemic and have scheduled and are continuing with those. But also they've had a lot of challenges in our unhoused population and our homeless shelters. And that many of those individuals are people who have gone to the hospital. So they're feeling very comfortable with, in San Mateo County, can't speak to other counties, but in San Mateo County, with the number of patients in the hospital right now. We know that many families would be economically harmed if schools are closed because parents cannot go to work. Many families suffered economically when we were shut down, had to leave jobs. And then the other thing is, if we're thinking, well, why not just 1 or 2 weeks while the surge passes, that's sort of faulty thinking, because 1 to 2 weeks of school closure is not going to solve the challenges. I don't think COVID will just magically disappear. And then you've got a whole other set of challenges of getting everybody back, getting everybody started up again, getting all the routines going. And that's really actually quite a bit of strain and distraction on just keep school open and keep going.
So that was Ms. Nancy McGee, Superintendent of San Mateo County Office of Education. One other thing to add to what Ms. McGee mentioned, she was very instrumental in helping school districts get our self-home test kits. She organized us and she arranged for us to come pick them up, and she herself was loading them into our trucks and vans alongside other superintendents. Just yet today, I received notice that she arranged for all school staff members in San Mateo County, public and private and charter, to receive N95 masks. So they'll be shipped and brought to our school sites sometime next week. And anybody who wants one would be able to get one or get a supply of some. I forget how many per staff member, but not every staff member will take one. So there will be enough likely for the rest of the year for those who want them. And then the last comment I'd like to make is that February is School Board Recognition Month. And I was going to have a resolution for you to pass, but I thought that was a little strange for you to pass a resolution to recognize your board service. But I did want to say thank you for your service. The public thanks you for your service. It takes courage to sit in your seats. And this is a seat of government that right now is at the forefront of decision-making. So thank you for what the time and effort and guidance that you provide for our school district.
Cool. Thank you, Mr. Vidalis. Next item is item 7A, consent agenda. The administration recommends approval of the starred items on the rest of tonight's agenda.
I was a little bit confused by the resolution. Is that part of the
Sorry, Mr. Ali, could you speak in the mic? I don't think we can hear it.
the resolution to continue the emergency status for meetings? Is that part of the?
That's not part of consent
No.
agenda, so we'll get to that as an item.
Are we on A,
7A.
7A? I'll make a motion that we approve the starred items on the rest of the agenda.
Second?
There is a first and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. Next items, item 7C, resolution number 22-01-19A to excuse Ms. Manufo Linga Anaway from special board meeting on December 15th, 2021. Pursuant to Education Code 35120 9C, the board will consider requests for passage of a resolution to excuse Ms. Manufo Linga Anaway's absence on December 15th, 2021 due to hardship.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 22-01-19A to excuse Trustee Liaga Anuai from the special board meeting on December 15th, 2021.
I'll second the motion.
There's a first and a second. All those in favor, or sorry, it's a roll call. May I please get a roll call?
Miss Leah Inga Anawai,
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela,
Aye.
Miss Jordan,
Aye.
Mr. Ali,
Aye.
Mr. Koo,
Aye. The roll call vote was 5-0. Next item is item 7F, resolution number 22-01-19B. Resolution finding that as a result of the continuing COVID-19 pandemic state of emergency, meeting in person for meetings of the Jefferson Elementary School District Board of Trustees would present imminent risks to the health or safety of attendees. The board will consider adoption of a resolution finding that as a result of the continuing COVID-19 pandemic state of emergency declared by Governor Gavin Newsom, meeting in person may present imminent risk to the health or safety of attendees. This resolution, if adopted, would provide flexibility to respond to health conditions when meetings are noticed. It would need reapproval every 30 days, and meetings will continue in person as long as feasible. Mr. Vidalis, could you speak on this item?
Yeah, so along with outlawing distance learning, the legislature also outlawed distance meetings. And as part of the Brown Act, we have certain noticing requirements when the board is not able to meet in person, and or a quorum of the board must always meet in person, and other board members could meet from their homes or wherever they might be. And would need to allow members of the public to attend with them. So the legislature passed a rule or a law that allows school districts and other public agents, I think this is particularly school districts, to meet virtually when they can make a finding that it might be dangerous conditions. Now, I don't think that we're necessarily there yet, but this resolution does have to be passed in order for that decision to be made. And so in discussing this with Mr. Koo, we thought it might be prudent to make this a regular item every month on the board agenda so that we always have the ability to do that. And Mr. Koo, I don't know if you want to share of the flexibility some school districts discovered because members of their board were unable to attend due to being exposed or having the virus. So you want to share that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I was watching a couple of other board meetings from districts across Mateo County. I know that there were a couple districts where they actually had issues potentially meeting in person and actually hitting quorum due to a couple members actually getting COVID or being exposed to COVID. So I thought that this resolution will at least provide that flexibility in case some of us gets exposed or potentially gets COVID, and sort of allows us to sort of help keep running meetings and sort of assures that we actually hit the quorum necessary to sort of take district actions.
I kind of didn't understand the last part.
Sorry, which part?
Well, half of what you said, honestly.
Oh, sorry. I was saying that I was watching, but there are some board meetings from across Mateo County. They are having issues hitting quorum because they had multiple people on their board that were actually exposed to COVID. So they actually couldn't make the meetings itself. So I felt that just having the resolution available gives us that flexibility just in case something does happen to our board as well too. It doesn't necessarily sort of limit us from having meetings for 30 days or so, and this sort of helps us keep that process going.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, I had some
Or
questions.
do you have some more questions?
No one else has any questions?
Yeah,
No,
I just want to say, I just want to ask if everybody could please put their microphones close so that we all can hear, because I'm close to you guys and I'm having a hard time. So I don't know how these people are feeling, but maybe it's going this way, but just talk into the mic.
So I don't have any questions because I understand it. So I guess what other questions do you have?
Okay, I had 2 or 3 questions actually. So the first question I had was, if we don't have this resolution, then what happens?
Oh, good question.
Well, my understanding is that we would not be able to go into a virtual meeting because we had not yet passed this resolution. Although other school boards have felt that they could pass it in a virtual meeting. But to me, it seems like you'd need to have this passed in order for you to select a virtual option. So that's why I would rather do it this way rather than suddenly schedule a virtual meeting and have this be the first item.
Okay. And then the second question I had was, if this is going to be something that you're asking us to do every 30 days, then I would like to amend this to say that it's going to be on the consent agenda until a time that it doesn't need to be on the consent agenda. Because if it's something that's regularly voted on, then technically that can be on the consent agenda. So that was why I had some questions about this. And then also, if I can ask another question, so just looking at it, kind of was a red flag for me. And it just made me think, like, what's stronger than this resolution? You know, what would be the next step or a stronger step that the board could take beyond a resolution, which is, to my knowledge, words?
Yes. Actually, this resolution probably is the one that's most impactful than many of the other resolutions we've passed, because this one actually has an action that's associated with it and a responsibility. So the resolution is what legal counsel recommends as the tool or the vehicle through which the board makes the findings. And I think, like as mentioned there, our intent is to meet in person as long as possible, with the exception of some of you or some of us maybe needing to quarantine or needing to isolate, and that this provides an opportunity for continued participation and hearing everyone's voice. And I wouldn't necessarily move to virtual from here forward until it was quite evident, you know, our classrooms were needing to go into quarantine and like it was just happening all around us. If you remember in March, the county's health order prohibited legislative bodies from meeting in person. And that's when Governor Newsom authored an executive order that allowed a virtual meeting, which expired, and then legislature wrote this law for school districts. He did just a couple months ago, author another executive order for other state bodies, not school districts, because school districts are governed by the law the legislature passed last summer. So this is just the way for it to happen, and I think that you know, it's a proactive step, and I think if we make the motion that it be on consent from here forward, I think that could be accomplished as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members?
Who's on first and who's on second? It's going around and around. It's fine.
Any other comments? Cool. If not, I will entertain a motion on this resolution.
I'll motion to approve Resolution 220119B as stated on the agenda.
Second.
There is a first and a second. May I please get a roll call?
Ms. Leah Inga Anawaing,
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela,
Aye.
Ms. Jordan,
Aye.
Mr. Ali,
Aye.
Mr. Ku.
Aye. That was 5-0. That was unanimous.
Just for clarification, is it the will of the board that this return as a consent item at a future meeting if we're doing it every 28 days? Or do you wish for it to be brought up as a discussion item?
I actually agree with Trustee Ali that if we're going to be doing it each time, unless the fellow board members think that they want to discuss it each time, but I think it's clear.
I think
Why?
that an individual board member has the opportunity to pull something off consent if they want a discussion. So I think that could be appropriate. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item is item 9B, Board Resolution number 22-01-19, resolution authorizing competitive negotiation, Public Contract Code Section 20118.2. The administration recommends approval of Board Resolution number 22-01-19, resolution authorizing competitive negotiation, Public Contract Code Section 20118.2 for the purchase and/or installation of technology services and/or equipment. Any questions or comments from board members? If not, I will entertain a motion on this resolution.
I'll make a motion to pass the board resolution number 22-01-19, resolution authorizing competitive negotiation, Public Contract Code Section 20118-2, as written.
Second the motion.
There's a first and a second. May I please get a roll call?
Ms. Leah Inga Anawai,
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela,
Aye.
Ms. Jordan,
Aye.
Mr. Ali,
Aye.
Mr. Ku.
Aye. That was 5-0. That was unanimous. Next item is item 10E, Variable Term Waiver 2021-2022. The administration recommends approval of a variable term waiver for Carmen V. Ayala, fifth grade teacher at Garden Village, in order to waive the CBEST exam and multi-subject credential program, which she is scheduled to complete in April of 2022.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, so we have a person that's just finishing up their student teaching and is going to be going into a long-term assignment that requires that we request the waiver. The variable term waiver is something we've done here in the past. This particular staff person, Ms. Ayala, will be completing her credential program by April. So the administration recommends that they approve the variable waiver, please.
Thank you.
President Ku, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
For
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Valenti.
Yes.
Is this one of our homegrown teachers, so to speak?
Yes, this person is currently finishing up or just finished up their student teaching at Daniel Webster. They were doing at a different university, so the way they're doing the CBEST is kind of as part of the program. So they're going to be doing the testing, I believe it is, in the next week or so.
Okay,
Thank you.
yes.
Any other questions I can entertain?
Oh, how many years has she been here with us?
She just did her student teaching through the beginning of the semester, this
Okay.
first semester. So she just wrapped it up at Daniel Webster in December.
Okay, and it's going well?
It's going very well, and we're very fortunate that we had her interested in taking on the task.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, I will entertain a motion on this item.
I move that we approve the variable term waiver for Ms. Carmen V. Ayala.
Second the motion.
There's a first and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. Next item is item 11A, resignations, classified personnel. The administration recommends approval of the resignations of the following classified employees and requests an appropriate resolution be prepared commending those with 10 or more years of service with the district. Roderick Banda, instructional assistant for PE at Dan Webster. A date of hire was February 28th, 2005, and date of resignation is effective 12/31/2021. and Grace Aldeguer, instructional aide, PS at JFK. Date of hire was June 2nd, 2008, and resignation effective on December 6th, 2021. Mr. Valenti.
Yes, thank you. It's always sad to see two long-term colleagues take the resignation, but at this point, Roderick and Grace both have made that decision. I just wanted to thank them for their years of service to the district and the students and our families, and to just make a recommendation that the board please accept the administration's recommendation to accept their resignations.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from board members?
I just have a comment. Just wanted to say thank you for their service. I understand, people are retiring and leaving at this time, and I respect their, their wishes to move forward with this. And I just, again, thank you for the years of support and service that they've given our district.
Any other comments or questions? If not, I will entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to approve the resignations of Roderick Banda and Grace Aldeguer, and also to have appropriate resolutions prepared commending for their years of 10 or more years of service with the district. And as shared by Trustee Jordan, I too want to thank them both for their service to our district and our communities.
Second.
There's a first and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. And thank you, Mr. Banda and Ms. Aldeguer, for your service for our district as well. Moving along, item 12A, Board Policy Administrative Regulations, September 2021 CSBA Board Policy Updates, first reading. The board will review and revise Board Policy Administrative Regulations from September 2021 CSBA Board Policy Updates as stated in a first reading. Any comments or questions from board members?
I just have one small question about re-engagement for chronically absent students. There's one part where it says door-to-door campaigns. Sounds like kind of extensive.
Well, I think it's listed as a list, as an options, right? Like
Okay.
that, or another way to say that, and we could change it, would be home visits.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
we can certainly, I think that's the term that we use now is home visit
Okay.
instead of door-to-door campaign. That sounds like, yeah, you're passing out pamphlets or something. Yeah, yeah, we can change that to home visits as a list of interventions. Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. And I usually don't get involved in this part of the agenda, but it's just,
Oh, but you need to.
yeah.
This is where the board lives in policy. So
Okay, I'll get
Yeah.
more involved.
Cool, thank you. Any other comments or adjustments for the first reading? It will come back up a second time, so I would have a chance to review it again. If no other comments, I'll entertain a motion on the first reading.
I move that we approve the first reading.
Second?
There's a first and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 That was unanimous. Next is 13 under Board Professional Development. 13A, Board Study Session, CSBA 2021 Annual Education Conference. Board member Andrea Jordan will highlight some of her learnings as well as give a report about her attendance at the California School Board Association CSBA 2021 Annual Education Conference in San Diego from December 2nd to December 4th, 2021. Ms. Jordan.
Thank you. So I obviously said at our initial meeting right after the conference that I was going to speak first so that I can remember what I learned. And then now, obviously, a month later, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I have notes because I don't remember everything. So one of the things that stood out to me, I attended the California Student Mental Health Crisis session. And it really talked about, obviously, when things shut down. A lot of our students were now isolated, especially our younger, older children that needed to be around their peers to kind of get through the isolation. And so it was a really insightful session in terms of how different school districts are working with their counselors. Some districts hired bilingual counselors to support their English speaking counselors, because obviously we have students from all demographics and walks of life, ethnic backgrounds. And so we want to make sure that, if you have a counselor that maybe only speaks English in a specific school, that they're not not giving help to those students that are maybe bilingual or maybe not as great as, others in English speaking. And so that was something that, again, I didn't even ask you, Superintendent Vidal, if that was something that we had even thought of, or if anyone had thought of that. And something like that, it seems super simple. Like, yes, we should have, bilingual counselors in addition to how we have bilingual teachers. Again, did not even come to me until that session came up. So the other thing, it was, I think something that we do as a district is going to other school districts or superintendents and figuring out our board trustees and saying, what are you going through, and understanding, like, how are you dealing with these crises? And I think we've done a great job of doing that. And I think we need to continue that. I know in the beginning of this session, we, talked about, not shutting down schools. But, as I had mentioned, I had received all of these emails from our community in our district saying, well, what is happening? We need all of these masks. We don't feel safe. I had a teacher, say I wanted to attend tonight, but I myself have contacted COVID. And so, even the fear of coming here and possibly contacting it because now they're around people. Again, it's the mental health of it all. And how do we relay that to our students? I think what I also learned is that everyone is going through it, not just the students, the teachers, the administrators, the parents, and they're going home to their parents, or they're at home with their parents in this isolation and going back into the school. Parents are fearful. Oh my God, if my student goes back to school, they contact COVID, they're going to be home on isolation. Now I can't go back to work. Now I'm economically challenged. It's like a domino effect. And so that kind of played into parent engagement and family engagement. How do we talk to our families about keeping safe and reminding their children to wash hands, keep your mask up. We know when you talk, it comes down. There's so much going on. It's so heavy that not one person can tackle it, unfortunately. And we have to lean on each other and figure out how do we get through this together, as hard as this might be. And so it was very insightful. We only have, well, it says 20 minutes. I'm gonna try to keep it concise. I don't think I have 20 minutes of things to say here. So the mental health one was very helpful. And I think as a board, I know we have some sessions coming up to talk about, how we wanna move our district forward. And I think I wanna talk through what does that look like, because I think mental health really became apparent during this pandemic, and we can't just support one group because the teachers are supporting the children. The teachers need that support, our administrators need that support. And so mental health and support for mental health, I would even say for us on this board, is just super important and imperative for us to continue to move forward positively. And hopefully, year 3 of this pandemic, we hopefully will get out of it at some point. So that was one session that was very, for me, helpful, insightful. Also because I have children in the district, and they're coming to me with their problems, and I am not a therapist, and I did not want to give wrong advice. And so having the support from our counselors, I think, and also support for our counselors, because they're also mentally going through something. So, something that I had thought was really great. And so, again, I know I mentioned about, engagement with family. Another session that I attended was parent ambassadors and their role in connecting families and school staff in the community. And I thought that was a really helpful one because, again, we all work together, our parents, our teachers, our administrators. It takes a village to basically keep our community up and running and safe. And so, that session really talked about effective ways to communicate. I know in previous conversations, about, Superintendent Vidala's evaluation, we've talked about, well, how do we get communication out? We keep, some people use, social media. Some people don't. Some people listen to their messages. Some people don't. Some people read their emails. Some people don't. And basically that session really talked about you, unfortunately or fortunately, you have to go through multiple different avenues in this day and age, because if not, you're only going to get one demographic or one pool of people. And especially now, it is so imperative that we're getting communication out, or someone's going to say, well, I didn't receive that email, or I didn't receive that notice. And, you know, it just is so important, I think, at this point, just to keep communicating. And so I, you know, want to talk about how do we work with our PR team to keep the messaging going out, to keep the messaging consistent, to also get to our teachers to say, hey, if there's something that you hear that you think needs to go out, talk to your principal, hey, talk to the superintendent, send an email to the trustees so that we can bring it up if we feel like it's not getting down the right channels. And so I think, again, parent engagement is important. Families are a part of the community. They will make sure that our absenteeism stays low. They will make sure that the students are coming to school. And again, all of us working together to, you know, have that common goal of basically student achievement. And then the only other session that I wanted to talk about was, well, it was interesting. I feel like I went to the wrong session, but it was also interesting because I realized that we don't have a student board, and I never even thought about having a student board. And I know that some high school districts have that, but I think the student's voice, and I know we've had some students come in here and present what they're doing in their school, but their voice, I mean, we are in these positions because of the students. Without the students, there would be no teachers, principals, administrators, trustees. I mean, there would be no school district. And so having a student voice, I would even feel like at our level, I think it's super important. And how we incorporate that, I'm not sure. We don't need to have an official board, but we should figure out how to incorporate their ideas. Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to see in your district? What do you see that we could improve on? And especially for our students in, I would say, like 7th, 8th grade, I think they're at a point where they can, and they understand what's going on. They know, you know, what's happening in their classrooms with their teachers. They see the news. I think it's important to have their voice heard. Just like we're listening to all the adults, I think we should start listening to the kids as well. So that's not 20 minutes, but that's what I learned. Any questions on that? I don't even know if I should ask that because I don't have anything else to say. No, just kidding.
Any questions or comments?
So was this your first any type of workshop with CSBA?
No. So when I got elected on in 2020, there was a virtual conference and they had sessions as well. And I do believe I did this, but it's different when you're in person. Honestly, I was overwhelmed because I thought I went to sessions and then I was done. And they were like, no, network. And I was like, no, I don't know. It's a pandemic. So, you know, and so I got, and obviously my fellow trustees were like, they were walking me through it. And so I do appreciate that I had them there because it was my first in-person conference. And I learned a lot in the sessions, but I also learned a lot from the networking and from listening to, again, other districts and how they're maneuvering through things. And you don't realize how much you need the support of others until you get the support of others. And so I am appreciative to all of you for making my first in-person conference one for the books.
Okay. I don't have any more questions, but I know that we have brought up in the past that we don't have a, you know, a student trustee, so to speak. And, you know, those students give their voice, but they don't get a vote in our official vote. So I know we've talked with Superintendent Vidales in the past about it. And, you know, there has been some effort. So I'm glad to hear you bring that back up. And I'm willing to work with you on that.
Thank you.
All right.
Cool. Thank you. Any other comments from board members or questions? Mr. Swilly, your microphone's muted.
Oh, it's going to be on green. Sorry. I said I like all the things that I've been hearing, and I agree with most of it. I think that if we're looking towards having a student sitting with us. I would hope that we would look at the highest level, which is eighth grade, isn't it? Eighth grade? Pick that person first. And then if things go on later on, another year or so, whatever, and we feel that we want to go down, but I think they deserve to be the first choice because they're mature, ready, they're almost ready to go into the next level of education. So that's the only thing I want to put forward is let's go for that first. But I like the idea very much because sometimes they do have ideas to share with us, and that's a good thing.
I just wanted to say I love your comprehensive overview of, if you took us there.
Yeah.
I mean, had I not gone with you, I would have actually got a really good snapshot of your experience and the experience at the conference through you. And I love your honesty about what your takeaways and how you envision them being applied here in our district. And I know when I first came on board, there was some discussion about the student trustee. And I think that you've resurrected that, and there's a sentiment here to revisit that conversation. And so I definitely want to lean on the trustees and our superintendent to see how we might be able to have that discussion, because I think it's wonderful that we have already created pathways for our middle schoolers through ethnic studies, through the Youth Cinema Project, and we did that as a K through 8. And I think this would be a wonderful addition. What I found most refreshing and really hit me in the heart was everything that you lifted around the mental health of this current situation that we find ourselves in. And it's hard not to be emotional. And I think what has been most frustrating, and I love how you just kept it really honest, is that I feel like as we speak to Omicron, people have downplayed that impact because the symptoms seem to be more minimal. But the mental health piece is just as heavy. The physical aspects of it may be different, but the mental health piece has not changed. So I'm so happy that you brought that to our district from your experience with others in other districts throughout the state that hopefully have walked away with the same sentiment, how they will go back and prioritize that discussion in their districts. And I hope that we can continue to have that here. So thank you, Trustee Jordan.
I'll say I have similar comments. Just want to echo everybody's comments to say it's great to hear that actually the conference brought out new ideas, especially because I know in the past when other board members have gone, I know the Youth Cinema Project, for example, came out of Csba conference actually. So it's great to hear that you have other ideas. And I also do agree on the student board member. I don't know how that would look ideally. I know that the high school district has one similarly for high school board members, and they have an advisory council for board members. So maybe I'll talk to the superintendent and see what we can do to sort of bring a presentation about that in the future, and if ideally sort of talk that through and get some thoughts on board members and how they want to shape that.
Yay, I'm glad that I was nervous tonight. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to say? So I'm glad it resonated with everyone, and I really appreciate the support. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. Next item is item 14, persons wishing to address the board on unagendized or closed session items. This portion of the agenda is available for individuals to comment on or address the board on any issue that is under the board's jurisdiction and not on the agenda or an item addressed in closed session. The maximum time allowed for any speaker is usually 2 minutes. Do we have any speakers? Thank you. First speaker we have is Kevin Owens, teacher. Yes, please.
I do want to say that the ethnic studies program, I want to come back and talk about that at some point because it has been transformative for me as a teacher and for my students and for my, like as a teacher, as a person, it's been really incredible. So I'd love to come back and talk. Yeah, so as they said, my name is Kevin Owens. I'm a math and ethnic studies teacher at TRP. You all know because I emailed you that I'm here to talk about the Omicron surge in our schools. Before I begin, it is important to tell you all that all of the school site employees have been working so hard and been doing an amazing job, from site administrators to classified staff to teachers. Last Friday, we had about 1/3 of our school absent. And I want you to really think about that for a second. That's 1 in 3 students was absent. And if that happened for any other reason, we would spring into action. If 1 out of 3 students had head lice, we would do something, anything differently. Despite the outbreak and crisis, there have been 0 material changes to our schools since we returned from winter break. To me, it is unacceptable to allow 1 out of 3 students to get infected with a disease and change nothing, especially a disease we do not yet know the long-term effects of, especially for children. In a poll I took of my students, only 40% of them affirmatively said that they feel safe from COVID at school. Yes, we know that distance learning isn't great, but we also know through district-provided trainings on trauma-informed practices that chaos, inconsistency, and a lack of feeling of safety is also bad for children and their mental health. The unpredictable and chaotic reality of our schools these last 2 weeks does not align with the goal of being trauma-informed educators. Many of our staff and students live with babies, elderly people, immunocompromised, and/or unvaccinated people, and these groups are all at risk if someone contracts COVID at school. As stewards of public trust, we need to make sure we take these risks seriously, or we risk losing the public trust. Now, we know that the district JESD cannot just conjure up, all these child-size KN95 masks or change state laws to trigger distance learning, but we do need to know that someone somewhere is trying to do something. We need to know that someone in power is listening to us instead of just rationalizing the chaos and sickness that we see in front of us. Many of us feel abandoned by our leaders and dehumanized by the lack of action that we see in this crisis. I hope we do not make these mistakes when the next variant comes, because there are going to be more variants and there are going to be more surges. This one looks like it's on the downslope, and that's good, but next time I hope that we can be proactive instead of reactive. I also hope that we can consider setting actual metrics that would trigger a return to distance learning, just in case we actually meet that, so the goalposts do not keep on moving. I know that we can do better, and I hope we can learn from our mistakes. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker is, I apologize, I missay the name. Crieslos G. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I apologize.
Do you guys mind if I just talk really loud? I'll be here. I have a loud voice. Hello everyone, my name is Kyriakos Sara. I go by Kirk for short. I'm the Fernando Rivera 7th grade science teacher. This is my first board meeting ever, so I do really appreciate hearing all what you have to say. A lot goes down here and it's very important what you all do. So good evening to the board members. I'll keep this very brief. I came here with 3 major concerns. First concern, I really think we should ban cloth masks in our school. There is scientific literature coming out that currently states that it is not an effective way to prevent the transfer of the Omicron variant. Second thing, and it actually has been addressed, we should have KN95s or equivalents provided to the schools for us and for our students. I also think we should downplay the giving out of these surgical masks. At this point, we are also aware that it is not as effective at preventing the Omicron transfer. Yes, it is still better than cloth masks for sure, but it is not a KN95. And lastly, I do believe that we should have COVID allotted sick time. This is only my 2nd year teaching ever. So I have 20 personal days. Sick time is included in that. Realistically, I'm allowed the luxury of catching COVID twice. And then what happens if I genuinely have a personal emergency, a family emergency? I'm out for a different illness. Then I have to take what, unpaid leave? And so I do believe we should have COVID specific sick time. And the superintendent did email us a list of things about how we're planning on moving forward. A lot of it along the lines of but going with the guidance of the county, going with the guidance of the state. And to be very, very blunt, I don't care what the state is doing. I don't care what our county is doing. I care about what we're doing, and we can do a lot better. Thank you for your time. That was the rehearsed speech. I do want to also point out, I really appreciated all the questions you asked. It really was helpful for me as the first time learning. So please keep asking them if you ever see me pop in again. It was very helpful with everything you were doing. So rock on with that.
Cool. Thank you for your comment. Last speaker I have here is Chloe Romley, teacher.
I teach sixth grade English at TRP, and I just want to appreciate that you guys are taking the time to hear us out. Really just echo what Kevin and Kirk said. I have been trying to write something to really convey the frustration and the fear and the anxiety that the staff and our students have been feeling, and we're standing here representing them. And honestly, I've had a really hard time putting that all into words, and want you all just to have a day-to-day like representation and reality of what our life has looked like the last 3 weeks in particular, as you are the people that are making the decisions about how best to protect us and keep our interests and our students' best interests at heart. And the emotional and mental and physical toll it's taken on our staff and our students as a whole. We've been back to work for 3 weeks, and in those 3 weeks, I realized today that realistically, I'm teaching 2 days a week uninterrupted, and the other 3 days a week we are teaching, but also constantly being interrupted by trying to adapt and adjust and figure out who has COVID and get rapid tests out to kids who need rapid tests and take care of those people. So trying to make sure that we have the masks that we need, that they are at our school site. Our school site has 600 people. I've been told that we only get shipped 1 to 2 boxes of 100 masks for a site that has 600 people. And when we asked for more, we got 250 masks. So trying to make sure that I appreciate that we're getting the N95 masks, but that when we get the masks, that we have them at our school site, and that we're really trying to do our best to protect our students at the end of the day, who are the people that we're looking out for, but also our staff who has been dealing with this huge mental toll. So just trying to keep in mind the day-to-day reality of what we are dealing with. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I just wanted to acknowledge the comment that the board members ourselves, we can't speak to comments because they're on unagendized items, but we just want to note that we've heard your message as well as our superintendent, so we'll definitely do all we can to address the items that you mentioned tonight. Next item is item 15, governance team member comments, reports, and board meeting reflection. I will start on my left with Mr. Ali.
Thanks very much. So when I first was reappointed to the board, Mr. Koo asked me, why did I want to come back on the board, and were there any things that I thought were important? So I'll take a quick minute to just illuminate a couple issues. So I'm interested, first of all, in the challenges we're facing with COVID-19 and the pandemic, which actually now has turned into an endemic, meaning it's not going anywhere. We're going to have it with us in some form or fashion. And I'm actually a teacher, so I'm not sure if some other people out there know. So I teach in another district, and I know how to compartmentalize. So I'm here as a school board member, but I'll speak as a teacher right now. Basically, every day there's more people absent, more teachers absent, more students absent. And some of this is because people tested positive, and some people just got sick. They were going to get sick over this time of year anyway. Then parents are being cautious because they get the emails, right? Teachers get the emails as well. So you get one email saying you were exposed, and basically it's up to you what you want to do about it. But if you get the second email, then there's more things that you need to do. So that's, what we're facing every day. And then there's a disconnect between the state, the county, and us, right? So, and I don't know if people heard, but the county, millions and millions of dollars of PPE just went to waste in San Mateo County. And I'm not even going to comment on that. Just you can think about that. So moving forward, I'm interested in how we're proactively working to prevent racism from being spread in our district. And that was something that I put out here before I left the board the first time because of a meeting I had with Trustee Jordan here. Two, what are we doing to close the achievement and opportunity gap in our district, specifically for African American Asian Pacific Islander students? What are we doing to positively affect the chronic absenteeism and attendance in our district? At what point are we in our ethnic studies program and work? And how can the board expedite it? Where are we in the building process of our staff housing? And is there any way for us to enhance the knowledge of or inform our teachers and other staff in the area of home ownership? And then I'd like to commend actually the state for having more flexibilities during COVID for the classified teacher credentialing program, and commend any of our employees that keeps, stepping it up and moving up their contribution in their service, which will contribute to their rewards in life. And that's it. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. Trustee Jordan?
Yes, I wanted to thank again all who came out tonight and made their comments, and also echo our teacher Kirk for commending Trustee Ali for asking questions. We know that, well, actually, I should say so. The board gets the agenda earlier. We get it on Thursdays. And so we do have a moment to also reach out to our superintendent and ask questions beforehand. But I also realize that maybe it is important, even if I do ask those questions beforehand and already know the answers and understand why we need to move forward with things, just to ask those questions here in public so that the public understands obviously what I understand. So again, commending you, Trustee Ali, for asking all of those questions. And so I will be better about asking questions in public. And I just note to myself. The other thing is I wanted to thank again, everyone on the board for their service here in what Superintendent Vidal said. It has been a year on the board. This in-person meetings, my first conference. I mean, I feel like it's like stacking on. I'm still in a pandemic. It's just a lot. And so I appreciate the support, keeping me up to speed. I am still learning a lot. I'm going to continue to learn a lot. As a part of that, I am going to decide to do a master's in governance with Csba because I think it's important for me to continue to build my knowledge about how it is to be an effective trustee as I move on, in my term here in this district. The other thing I was going to mention is, there was an email that was sent out. USPS is doing free in-home tests, and so if no one has that information, we've got to figure out how to get it to them because I think it is important that if we're going to have to live with this, as we know we are, and variants are going to continue to happen, we got to make sure that our families and our community are able to test themselves. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Priscilla?
I think I echo everything you're saying, so I'm not going to repeat it. But thank you for bringing that up. I don't really think I have anything more to add other than say that I know that we're going to work together as a team to make sure that all of these goals are going to be met. And as we go along, if we need to add more, we'll add them. That's because I'm sure we're going to find more things that we would like to accomplish, and we'll do that. We're coming up having a session at the board so we can put some priorities together, and that's the time we're going to do it. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Trustee Brusuela, Trustee Jordan, Trustee Ali. Everything you've said resonates with me, but I think what's sitting with me is some of, I'll be honest and transparent, a level of guilt, hearing that this pandemic continues to weigh on everyone, and we're tasked as decision makers to make those very decisions on how we can be proactive and not reactive. And we've had these discussions, and this is not in direct response to the comments, but it's hearing you, Trustee Ali, allow us to revisit a lot of your vision that you had on this board and that I've continued to admire. And I sit with the level of guilt sitting here that we try to do our best, and yet we're still stuck, that it still isn't good enough to combat all that we're facing as trustees, as community members, but more importantly, in our schools. And what I will say is, yes, we have received the emails, the text messages, running into people in a store, and they're sharing their heart and their frustration, as a parent, as a neighbor. And I just want to say that if there's a way that we can just dig deep and be more innovative and rethink all that's given to us during this pandemic, to rethink how we're reacting around policy. Because I agree, sometimes as a person, an individual, and as a parent living a daughter in a multi-generational home, I don't want to be stuck in fear and not be able to serve and do what I need to do. But I'll own my fear. I get worried every time, like you shared just recently, Trustee Jordan, and Dr. Morrow said on a call just last week, he said, everyone on this call probably has Omicron. And I was kind of floored when he said that. But the reality is that I think he was speaking to the very impact of the unknown. So we sit in this room with that very unknown, but I feel like there is a blur sitting with us. I might even be spinning some gibberish from this COVID madness, but I would like to see how we can be very specific to meeting the needs of our district and still be in compliance. Because at the end of the day, we have to be compliant in order to keep our doors open and receive the funding that keeps these doors open. But I don't want us to be tied to being compliant when it's not right for us. And I'm just wanting to keep that real. This is the voice that's been on this board when I came on this board, and I'm just sitting with the level of guilt, like I don't feel like I'm doing enough. But I know we're sitting amongst some brilliant minds here. So hopefully we can be a little bit more vigilant and dig a little bit deeper. And because I'll tell you right now, my older sister that lives with me turns 70 in 2 weeks, and she will not leave the house. She will not leave the house. And you all know 2 years ago, January 5th, I buried my oldest son. But this very month, I've already buried 3 people in my family because they decided not to be vaccinated, and they died from COVID. So it's emotional to sit here and hear the impact and the devastation and the suffering that still exists in our community. So I bring some of that baggage here tonight, and so I just want to share openly and freely and hope that we can figure out how to do better, because I know that there's great leadership sitting here tonight. And I want to thank you all for sharing your heart. We know that it's not an easy job, but we know that it's a great job and you are making a difference. But it's not easy. And it's really never easy when you're doing something great. It comes with a lot of challenges. So I want to thank everyone for their service and just to remain safe. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. I just want to echo everybody else's comments. I'll keep my remarks brief. Just hope everybody stays safe, healthy, gets vaccinated, get boosted. It provides us so much more safety and support when we actually need it. And just want to say thanks to all the teachers, staff, and all those first responders out there who are doing the work, especially during these really difficult times. Item 16 is convening to closed session. We could take a 5-minute recess and convene back into closed session at 8:20. Thank you so much for attending tonight's meeting.